Call to order the Lancaster County Board of Supervisors April 14th meeting. Let us stand for a pledge of allegiance, please. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. You may be seated. If you're looking at if you're following the agenda, we're going to move number 3 up to number 1 spot under the work session. So at this particular time, we were talking about the tax rate ordinance. Mr. Gill?
Yes, sir, Mr. Chairman. Glenn, have you given me PC2? All right. What you have on the screen is my recommendation for the tax rate ordinance for calendar year 2022. And it looks very similar to 2021 because it's exactly the same as 2021. I wanted to bring this up first, and we've got Marlon Savoy, Commissioner of Revenue, here. The General Assembly has passed and the governor has signed legislation recently that will allow counties to remove personal property vehicles out of the same classification as other personal property and can be taxed at a different rate. I believe she can help explain that more, and I'm just throwing this out there so you're aware of it. You have the ability to reduce the personal property tax rate on vehicles. I'm not recommending that you do that for a couple of different reasons. Number one, you all may remember this spreadsheet from last year. Dr. Westbrook, the former District 5 supervisor, put this, did a lot of work on personal property taxes and put this together. And as you can see down here at the bottom, Lancaster already has one of the lowest personal property tax rates around. You see what Northumberland is. So this was for 2020, Richmond County and Westmoreland. So Lancaster already has a very low rate. It has not been changed since 2007. If you all will remember, you all actually advertised a rate of $3.75 last year. So there was a lot of discussion last year about raising the tax rate on personal property. When it came time to adopt the tax rate, you chose to adopt the $2.04. So because values have risen, you will realize a higher revenue from personal property, even with the same tax rate. So the option is there to tax vehicles at a lower rate. You could also adjust the percentages. Right now, we tax at 100% of the loan value. Don't get confused by the 77% here. That means loan value is 70% of retail value. So, but we tax at 100% of the loan value. So that option is there, and I'd like to ask Commissioner of Revenue Marlon Savoy to do you have anything to add on that, Marlon?
I don't, unless someone has some questions. I reached out to some of the surrounding counties.
Hang on, yeah. He can get, well, come on up here, Marlon. People out in video land can't hear if you don't speak in the microphone.
I reached out to some of the surrounding counties. Northumberland has not made a decision one way or the other. Neither has Middlesex County. Richmond County, the Board of Supervisors is considering increasing the PPTRA to offset the increase in revenue. And Essex County is looking at 2 options. One is eliminating the license tax and or increasing the PPTRA to offset some of the revenue.
So,
Nothing has been finalized. They are just options that they are looking at this point.
so what's the real difference between the two?
I'm sorry?
What's the real difference between the two? You said the governor.
What?
The governor proposed something different.
Well, what the governor has signed is they have did a separate classification for vehicles, where vehicles can be assessed at a lower rate than the general rate.
Gotcha. All right.
So we don't tax boats, of course, so what other really would fall under personal property that that's not a vehicle that somebody may own?
The 204 rate has basically everything that has a license with DMV. So you have your RVs, of course you have your trucks.
Like commercial trucks, would they be, in fact, would they also be settled to the new rate, or would that be a separate?
I'm not sure, actually.
It's still a lot of unknowns.
It's
That's,
still, yeah, it's still a lot of unknowns what is actually in that separate rate at this point. I have not, I've sort of read the approved bill, but I have not actually.
This seems a lot more like what Richmond likes to do, is make complications for local government that have no effect on them, because it doesn't affect their revenue and it doesn't affect their political decisions, because nobody's going to question them on cutting taxes or sounding like they're cutting taxes, when in reality they're actually increasing taxes, because they're just shifting the burden to local government, who has no other really taxing authority but real estate, which then jacks up people's real estate, which then drives down home ownership. So this is just a political back and forth. I see no benefit to this, really.
I'm inclined to stay with what we already have and keep it the same.
Okay.
We all in agreement with that? We got a consensus with that. All right, thank you, ma'am.
that was quick.
Yeah.
Of course, your tax rate is by ordinance, by state code. We have to advertise the ordinance twice before a public hearing. So if this is what you decide to go with, it'll be advertised twice in May, and you'll hold your public hearing and adopt it at your May 26th meeting. So
Again, it's what I think we should stay with what we already have.
I make that motion.
All right, all right. Do you hear the motion? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All right, unanimous vote?
So so last, you said last year that the board proposed a 3.75?
$3.75
But then,
per hundred.
voted against it?
Yeah, well, you can always advertise a higher rate.
Okay.
You can adopt a lower rate than what you advertise, but you cannot adopt a higher rate. So typically, a board will advertise high and then settle low.
Oh, I see.
Guys, when we were considering that rate, Dr. Westbrook was looking to ways to fund the broadband all across the county,
That's very
and
true.
was looking for that as a potential revenue source. Between the time that he was proposing all that and then the actual vote on the tax levies, the Dominion thing came to fruition, and we pursued that path and chose to keep the tax rate where they were. So that's just sort of the back history of that
That
story.
makes sense. Thank you. It's always a reason.
Yeah, that's why.
Thanks.
Okay, we finished with that. All right, let's move on. Mr. Gill, capital improvement budget.
Mr. Chairman, you've
Thank you,
had,
ma'am.
Thank you. Have a good evening.
All right.
you've had 3 budget work sessions to date on the FY23 budget, but you haven't talked a great deal about the capital improvement budget, which was in the Planning Commission stage early on. The Planning Commission has held their public hearing and forwarded you their recommendation, which is right here. I don't know why that's like that. I don't know why that's jumbled up. Let me try that again. Probably got to open that back up. Okay. You'll see, let's see, it's 3, 6, 9, 10, 11, was it 14 items in FY23? And FY23 is really what you're concerned about, because the outer years will be reviewed and revised each year moving forward. So as I said, you haven't talked a lot about the capital improvement items. We've got department heads here today to answer any questions about these projects that the Planning Commission has recommended. And I know we have Matt Smith. Is Matt on, Glenn? And Matt is at the National Hurricane Conference, so I'd like for him to go first if he could, because I'm not sure what else he has on his plate tonight there. So, Matt, can you hear us?
Yes, can you hear me?
Yes. I'm gonna let you go first, Matt, because you're out of town, and I don't know what else you have planned for tonight. So I know you sent me an overview today of the P25 radio upgrade, which I have distributed. I believe our board members have had a chance to look at it. And you've got a couple of other items on there. Well, one other item in FY23. So if, Mr. Chairman, if it's okay with you, turn it over to
Yes.
Chief Smith.
All right, Mr. Smith.
Okay, Matt, you got the floor.
All right, I'll cover the easy project first. That'll be the ambulance replacement to serve the Upper Lancaster EMS district. This is the second ambulance that was part of the upgrade plan that we did in 2017. The primary unit that we put into service in 2019 has pretty much been running nonstop, so it's ready for a much-needed rest. The packet that I distributed with the capital improvement plan, there's some overage between the contracted ambulance price and the budget request. That's to accommodate for the durable supplies that will be needed to get that truck in service once it comes in. I took the same thing that we did for 2019 and added 20% to that to accommodate for inflation costs for the product. Mostly everything else will be able to transfer over from the unit that'll be going out of service. Is there any questions on the ambulance project?
Any questions, gentlemen?
We got about half of that in grant funding, didn't we, Matt?
I forgot to mention that I have a first project from 2019. We got half of it back in grant funding, and I completed the grant for this one on March 15th. So I also have the same grant, that's a 50-50 grant for this project as well.
Good.
Okay.
All right. Yeah, talk about your big one, Matt.
All right, so I think everybody except for Mr. Giese and Mr. Smith is probably aware of this as it's been going on a couple of years. So originally this was on the slate for fiscal year 21, and I asked for the project to be put off for the past 2 years as I was learning about the system, learning how the system operates, and learning about stuff coming down the pipe, and eventually got to this point. So this project is to upgrade the county's current emergent radio system from a VHF analog system to a P25 digital system. We've still got a lot of work left, and this will be a multi-year project. The best portion of this will be to join an existing regional radio system that is titled the Upper Middle Peninsula Regional Radio System, which is actually a UHF P25 Phase 2 trunk system. So it puts you at the top of the product line. It will cover us for many, many years, and also have us covered for any mandates that come down the road. The goal of this project is to achieve a system that meets industry standards, provide a reliable, interoperable, and robust public safety radio communication system. Some background on the project: the county's existing public radio system, which we use a 4-channel VHF analog system that's broadcasted simultaneously between the 5 RF sites. It's just VHF is not a viable option for public safety anymore. The frequency spectrum is very congested and is only going to grow worse as more and more systems become online. As the system ages, we'll have continued coverage, interference, and reliability issues. The counties surrounding us have all migrated to P25 systems, with the exception of Northumberland County, which is still on a VHF system, the same as us. So we still have interoperability with Northumberland, but they have a project on the table for this year as well. And if they move forward, then we'll island ourselves and lose communication with them. Current issues that are currently faced, I've had many public safety radio users voice concerns about radio coverage deficiencies, interference issues, and reliability issues. This has been reported by users, and I've experienced this myself a lot, as well as just regular system monitoring. You can hear it on a day-to-day basis. If you stream our channel, listen to our channel, you'll be able to pick up on most of the issues that I'm talking about. A large issue is when a user experiences constraint when talking back to the dispatcher from the field. Often the user can hear the dispatcher or other users, but are unable to talk back into the system. This is mostly a huge deal with the portable radios themselves. You'll hear the traffic being referred to as extremely staticky, or you might hear the dispatcher come back and say, we're unable to receive your radio traffic, please try again. This is often caused by the system being out of balance. The issues pose an extreme life safety concern if the responders cannot effectively talk into the system or talk to one another. That becomes a huge issue. Also with the VHF system, upgrading the VHF system, there's not much room left for expanded growth. With the availability of channels in the spectrum, you're just extremely limited on expanding channel capacity and stuff like that. The whole goal of Project 25 is industry standard equipment, and interoperability is a big key. So we've had a lot of incidents, as I'm sure you're familiar with, at least the past 2 years, that involves a lot of interaction. Outside agencies, we also use outside agencies on common calls, including fire, EMS calls, and law enforcement assist. So the ability to have a seamless integration is very, very, very important to day-to-day operations.
Okay.
For my proposal for this project, it's requested that the board make a project approval so that we can continue additional steps in this process. The project approval would set in motion contract negotiations with the vendor as well as the Upper Middle Peninsula Regional Radio System members. Having a project approval gives us the opportunity to start pursuing some technical grants and services and other mechanisms in the project approval, which we have to have for continuation. Also for this, what was that?
I was going to just ask you a question, but and I think you talked about this a couple years ago, but the 3.2 million that's in there now, that covers hardware, software, licensing, and all those things.
Yes.
Yeah, I think you did cover that before. I was just concerned about reoccurring fees, and I know we're gonna have to. There's some cost for fees that reoccur every year.
Yes, that'll be for maintenance and software upgrades, as well as managing a fund to support things like radio damages. If people get new vehicles, take other vehicles out of service, the technical fees for swapping those and getting that work done, just some day-to-day items.
And those fees that we talk about now, they're not in that 3.2 though, right?
The 3.2 is the initial establishment of the project. Overall, once we get down into it, that price may change, and you'll see the actual contract and have a full contract presentation down the road.
Yeah, okay. I just want to make sure I didn't forget anything from 2 years ago.
That was
So I'm coming on late, so I do have some questions here. So have we already started the process, and this is just another step in an ongoing process? Matt?
I've been really working on this specific project for the past 2 years, going around and just really learning everything and looking at our best option. And this is really the best option for what you get out of it.
So I guess the other question would be, so are you saying that we're going to grant this 3.2, and with that, we get to see a contract in the near future? Or do we have a contract now?
No,
There's only an initial draft, which Mr. Gill said he would send out later for reference, but that initial draft has already been changed a little bit. So that's just a working document at this point. The final contract, once it's kind of hashed out, will be presented to you before final approval.
But at any point, we can, if things go south, we can back out of this and not lose money, I would assume. I'm sure there'd be some costs.
Yes.
Okay. So this is, I have to leave this to you guys. You guys are the experts. So I can't set up here and say that one system is better than the other. So when I make purchases, I base it on bronze, silver, gold, and platinum. So how do you rank this system in that kind of order?
This system, for what we've been able to work in, I mean, this system has been hashed out really over the years by the existing partner, which has been really been King and Queen in Essex County. Matthews County is just on board. Richmond County uses the system as a subscriber, which means that they just pay into the system, but they don't get the support and they have no infrastructure in their county, which has been creating their own problem. Northumberland is also making motion to join this system as well. So it'll really bring back to what we had a couple years ago, where we'll have that seamless integration with everybody else, as well as a very, very good system.
Okay.
So, Matt, a quick question on the initial 3.2 million that's in this year's budget. So that number may change based on future contract negotiations.
Yes.
So this is just sort of the best estimate right now.
Yes, and once you kind of get the contract, you'll kind of see what I'm talking about. A lot of the figures outside of the site surveys, a lot of the stuff like the equipment totals and stuff like that were just an estimation. Once we get down to the negotiation, we're going to have to actually sit down and do a full count of everything that'll be needed. So we'll have a realistic number there, and then go from there.
Don, it seems more like, I know the overall capital improvement plan is just for this fiscal year, but based on the school project, and we know that it's more of like, to me, in this capital budget, like how is this going to be financed, or the financing for these potential options for these projects, and what that looks like, because outside of this project and the school project, the rest of them are just essentially routine maintenance.
Right. And I think I mentioned at an earlier work session, once you all have adopted a capital improvement budget, it would be my intention to have your financial advisors, Davenport and Company, come in at the May or maybe June meeting and go over options, the best options for you all to do some financing to fund these. Obviously, the Virginia Public School Authority bond could be an option to finance the school. Virginia Resource Authority could be an option for this particular project. Maybe USDA loans.
So there could end up ultimately being multiple sources.
It could be multiple
potentially,
sources, yes.
Bonds over multiple years instead of just one big bond. I think it would all depend on.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes. And I just want to add, you all are not approving a contract tonight. You're not approving anything, really. You're just making a recommendation of a budget amount to include in this capital improvement budget.
And basically giving him permission to pursue the P25.
Well, yes. I mean, this is what he's been working on for the past, as he said, a couple of years. This is what Northumberland has chosen to do, and most of our surrounding counties have joined this system. Matt, this is a federal mandate. We have to go digital by 2025. and correct me if I'm wrong, but it's a federal mandate. If we chose not to go with what you have proposed, what is our option? Or is there one?
The option would be a standalone system, and it would have to either be a standalone VHF system, which pretty much leaves us with the same situation we are in today. We won't be able to communicate with anybody surrounding us, and it's going to cost us a lot of money. And then if they make the change down the road saying that, when it's in their draft plan right now for phase 2, there's no date on that, but if they say, we need to get into the 6.25 kilohertz bandwidth, then you're going to have to present another system because the P25 VHF phase 1 can't do that. So we would be pretty much back in the same situation. With the project approval on this, the plan is to do this project with Northumberland, which provides a cost savings, a total project cost savings of $2.5 million. Also, my goal is to not pay the full amount of money for this as much as possible. Obviously, when a project like this, you need to have a financial backing just in case. But my goal would really be to get a lot of this done by grant work.
That answered my question.
And kind of get our cost to it down as much as possible. So with the project approval will allow me to actually start pursuing grants, especially when the contract is negotiated and I have a specific equipment set and project goal. That'll allow more grant opportunities pursuing grants on a regional level compared to standalone. There's some stuff that we can get on a standalone, but we will score a lot higher on a regional project. Also, one of the things that was recommended to us with the magnitude of implementing and monitoring a contract of this size, because you'll see it's a couple hundred pages. I think seeking the assistance of an outside consultant that'll provide a non-biased project management and assist in navigation from project start to finish that's not tied to a locality, it's not tied to a vendor, and it's not tied to the regional radio authority. And I think doing this will significantly reduce specific local opinion, manufacturer opinion, and put a big influence on the needs for fiscal responsibility and just the overall operational functionality of the system.
Well, you answered my question. I want to know if we had any grants that could help with the cost. Gentlemen, the way I'm thinking about this, I'm thinking we should go ahead and give our little approval of this. So, yeah.
I didn't mean to interrupt you. Can I speak for a minute?
I think Jeffrey should speak.
He should, okay.
Yeah.
All right, go ahead, sir.
Didn't mean to butt into this. Matthew has sent us several emails and those type of things about what's going on. I appreciate what Matthew's done. He's done a great job in looking into what he's done. As stakeholders in this radio system, I feel like going forward, yes, I'm for the P25, we've got to do it. I'm for the UHF. But there's still some questions that we have. I would like to see the county going forward do a committee of the stakeholders, which are the sheriff's office, fire departments, and the EMS, to be on a committee to work with Matthew on this. I don't think a project of this size should be put on one person, because we are stakeholders of this county using the radio. Everybody uses the same system. Terry and I worked on the system, the current system we have. It doesn't make me an expert on radios. It doesn't make Matthew an expert on radios. But there's things that everybody can bring to the table, concerns as well. We know, the sheriff's office knows it better than anybody because we control the dispatch radio and know what we hear and don't hear. Yes, there are some problems. There's some current dead spots with the current system we're looking at. UHF is better, and like I said, I'm a opponent of that. But I would like to see the board recommend a committee of all stakeholders.
Okay. Do you have anything against what Matt had said?
Pardon me, I'm
Do
sorry.
you have anything that's opposite of what Matt has said that you don't
Not
agree
real
with?
opposite, it's just some questions and things that I think, from the last, we did an RFP on the last one we did. There's some things that I'd like to see when a contract's done, guarantees. Doing something with Northumberland and using a study from Northumberland and basing it on what King and Queen and Essex and Richmond County have done. And by the way, Richmond County, he said they are using the system. Right now, they're having trouble with indoor talk out with portables. We're going to be putting, we go with this system, we're going to be putting in antennas in Northumberland and Langston County, and we're paying for them. Richmond County isn't going to pay a dime, and it's going to enhance their system. So my question is, you know, if it's going to enhance theirs, let's talk to Richmond County, say, hey, you know, can y'all help us out a little bit because you're getting a benefit from it.
All right. Mr. Smith, what's your idea on this?
I had that listed as one of my funding opportunities, as well as partnering with. I've been communicating with Mitch Paulette a lot, who's their emergency services chief, and he's in agreement. A lot of their issues is because they're relying on tower sites in Essex County, so they're only relying on bleed over coverage. And if us in Northumberland go forward, you know, their county is going to be covered. So one thing that I think is fair with that, if they don't, I know they want to put infrastructure, but especially doing a cost share for the Lit Walton Tower, I think makes sense. I know a cost share with one that Northumberland wants to, a site that Northumberland wants to do is right at the border makes sense. So I definitely think that talks with Richmond County on how they want to and can assist us with this are definitely warranted. I've been working to put together kind of a radio committee. We've met a couple times. The first time I initially sat down a couple years ago and met with the fire departments, they all kind of said, you know, we don't have a lot of people that's familiar with the radio, so let's dial it down to people who are or are willing to put in the time to learn. So I've got I think a pretty good work group established for when we get to the point of the actually hashing out and dealing with the contract and stuff like that. So that'll happen.
Are you part of that committee? Or is,
I have been, you know, Matthew sends us emails and those kind of things, but I haven't been contacted. We had one meeting with Harris where we had some questions and so forth. But, you know, comparing Essex and King and Queen and Northumberland, sure, it's just like a person. We've all got arms and legs. But when it comes down to it, we've all got our different problems. So based on something other counties have, I want to see our issues addressed, not something that Essex learned about their county or King and Queen. I want the stakeholders from this county to express their concerns. They might not have to know much about the radio system, but they know the problems that they're having.
so Matt, I think that's fair. That's a fair statement, and I'm certainly in favor of all the stakeholders to be involved if it helps to catch early problems instead of later down the road. So it's not changing our decision tonight. We're still going to move forward with this system. We're just asking that a committee be put together that includes maybe a representative from each department in our county. And I don't want to be the one in charge of that. I think that's something that you guys can do on your own.
Plus the volunteer organization.
Plus the volunteer, you know, especially the volunteer. That's who I.
Would the volunteer organizations bear the cost of their equipment, or is that part of this proposal?
That, to my understanding, Matthew, correct me if I'm wrong, but that is correct, yes.
That's part of the program.
Part of the
Yes.
proposal? Okay.
All right.
Yeah.
So if you had a committee, who would be the representatives?
That would be the EMS, Sheriff's Office, and the fire departments,
And rescue squad.
Yeah.
And rescue squad. All right.
And the school system doesn't use this at all?
They use a UHF system now, but it's mainly used for commercial.
Will they be
Not
part of the new
safety.
system?
No, to my knowledge, y'all are going to keep what you've got, correct? It seems to be working fine for you.
No, they wouldn't.
Yeah,
The new system will be able to include a talk group patch that will put the school system, will tie the school system into our system to make communications, like in an emergency situation, if something's going on at the school, we'll be able to have a patch that incorporates that motor turbo system and allows for communication.
Yeah, currently we have a base station at the sheriff's office, and there's base stations at the schools, and there's a radio in each bus. So if there's an issue, they're able to contact us and tell us there's an issue.
Okay.
That's the way it works right now.
That's a separate system.
Right, yes.
All right, gentlemen, what's your wishes
Well-
concerning the committee?
If I could jump in here, again, let me reiterate, you all are just suggesting a figure to put in the capital improvement budget.
Right.
You are not approving a contract tonight. So, we've got a fairly good estimate. Matthew's done a lot of work on that, 3.2. I feel it's a good estimate. That I think the decision the board needs to make is, do we want to leave that 3.2 in and direct Matt to get this committee together and hash it out so that a uniform request to approve this project come back to you at a future meeting.
All right,
Yes.
so
You
I'm gonna make that a motion. I'm gonna make the motion that we approve this 3.2.
Can I speak on that real quick?
Yes. Go ahead.
So going forward, I've got a good working list that members from each department have provided for a work group, and that will begin for the contract negotiation phase. What I would like to do, if you choose to go through with the project approval, is go ahead and put an RFP out for a contract monitoring service and a grant writer.
And a grant writer, how much a grant writer gonna cost?
So that will be the initial cost.
Okay.
And I have money left from last year's capital improvement that should cover the grant writer.
Okay, all right.
We don't have a grant
So
writer on
that
staff
portion-
in the schools, do we?
I've got a couple grant writer contracts, and I can do a lot of it myself, but it's going to be the actual technical details that are, I think, going to hem me up when I try to do it myself.
Okay, all right, I understand.
So Matt, is the cost for the grant writer, and what was the first part of that you said?
The outside consultant
Okay.
for the
Did-
start to finish of the project.
The expenses for the consultant and the grant writer, they are outside of the 3.2? They're not included in the 3.2?
The monitor will be outside of the 3.2, so we can incorporate it into the budget.
Okay.
Did he answer it? Did he answer the question?
He said the monitor. Matt, can you repeat what you just said?
The monitoring service will be an outside cost. We can
Okay.
incorporate it into a final budget.
Okay. I still think the 3.2 is a good estimate, at least to begin with. And, it'll be revised down the road, but I think the 3.2 is a good estimate, budget estimate for the capital improvement budget.
At the end of the day, this is just a budget, it's a guess, and
Yeah.
if it's wrong, we'll find out when it's time to finance it. And they
Yes.
say that's too low or too high.
Right.
So I'm gonna continue with my motion to approve this 3.2 million for the P25 digital radio upgrade and to our emergency, Mr. Smith is to also to go ahead and go forward with this, to investigate and come back with us with a contract. And also to appoint a committee to help with this decision on what program we should get, how it should get, and what's being covered with that. All right, anything else that should be included in that?
Was that the motion? That's your
Yeah.
motion?
All
That was.
right. Yeah. All right, you've heard the motion. All in favor, say aye.
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 All right, opposed, nay. Ayes have it. Okay.
All
Go
right.
back to your conference.
Thank you, Matt.
One more thing while I got you all on the phone. Just for planning purposes, which monthly meeting would you like the contract proposal at? I'm not sure you all schedule. Would you like the June or July?
It doesn't make a difference, Matt. The budget will be adopted at the May 26th meeting. So June or July, I think the main thing is to make sure that all of their stakeholders are on board with this project moving forward.
Right. Okay.
So you think June 23rd would be a good date?
It's June 30th. It's the last Thursday in June is,
Okay.
yeah, June 30.
Lieutenant Haywood, you good with
Okay.
that? Okay, let's move on. General fund operating budget, Mr.
Oh,
Gee.
no, Mr. Chairman.
Oh,
We
man,
got,
I'm moving.
yeah, you
I done
bypassed,
jumped over
you
everything.
you
Yep.
bypassed the others here.
That's right.
Approved.
We've got the school folks here. That's the other big item in the capital improvement budget. Of course, you always have the school bus replacement, so they're on a schedule of 1 bus this year, 2 buses next, and then back 1, 2. They're on that schedule, and it seems to have worked good. That they always have the school security grant matching funds in there. That's not a given. They have to be approved for those. Usually they are, but sometimes not, and sometimes not at the maximum amount. So that maximum amount, the match would be 62.5. But the big issue here is a proposed new middle school, high school project that is spread out over 3 fiscal years. You'll see $8 million in FY23. And we've got Travis Pittman and John Mann here. And I think maybe they should explain to you the process that they are going about with this, because it's not the usual hire an architect, design a building, go out to RFP for a contractor and build it. They're utilizing the Public-Private Educational Act in which they're going out through a public-private partnership with an RFP that will generate responses from an architect-contractor combination. And based on our prior recent experience, I think this is probably the best way to go. And if it's okay with you, I'd like for maybe Travis and/or John to explain that a little bit better.
This will probably save us some money.
Yeah, I've given you just an overview of it, but I know Travis is well versed in this.
See, I was trying to jump over this and approve it right away.
Don knows very much about it. That was pretty good. Yeah, so as we were going through the middle school project, I've been with the school for about a year, and that was a design bid build process. And not that we could certainly go that route. We could have gone that route with this project. It's time. Time is what's a huge factor with what we have going on right now. We reached out to, Connemara was working on the Early Childhood Center at the time, and I met with Dave Jones, and he recommended we reach out to Jim Yatzek. He's a guy down in Williamsburg with MPB, I believe engineering is the name. And after meeting with him, he recommended we go this route, this PPEA. They're certainly using it in Virginia Beach, Williamsburg, those parts of the state. A lot of times you'll see it where there's more than one school, and the way they can really save money on that process is they don't have to design all 3 schools. They can use that same design and apply that to the construction piece of it. But it would work well for us. And the whole idea behind this, you're correct, Mr. Palin, is to save money. Bottom line, time and money is what we're trying to save. And you lose some, we're not going to get the custom everything within the school, but that eliminates that time. It's more of a stock plan, if you will, that they'll present as the option. And there'll be some features that'll be unique to our county based on our needs that they'll be able to apply to that. But yeah, that's sort of where we stand with that. We had a pre proposal meeting a few weeks ago, and it was probably 3 different architectural firms, 3 different contractors. They pair up, so as they go through this process, they're working together. So once they put their proposals in, they're running. They know what each other needs and wants throughout the project. So that's a big part of it. I mean, even what we went through with the design bid build process, once the builder comes on board, you know, it takes them 2 or 3 months just to kind of get up to speed with what the plan that the architect had. So it's a big savings for us as far as that's concerned.
So really, you got the contractors and the architect working together right from the start.
Right from the start.
Yeah, that makes sense.
And Travis, update them on, you all have put out an RFP and when that's due back and so forth.
Yeah, so I've got some dates. The RFP went out on March 21st. There's too many dates for me to remember. We had a pre-proposal conference on March 31st. The conceptual phase is due May 24th, and this sort of works well with when you guys vote on, you know, our capital budget will be 2 days later. So we'll know very soon after the initial concepts come in, whether we've got the funding or not. If we don't get the funding, that makes it a little easier. The request for details, so once you go through the concept, you can narrow it down to 2 or 3. You know, hopefully we get more than that. Ideally, we get 5 to 6 proposals. I'm being told with all the work that's going on in the state, you know, education, there's a lot of money being thrown at education right now. And a lot of these guys are busy with projects. The Fox Elementary School in Richmond that burn up.
A lot of federal money from the ESSER being
Yeah.
spent on school projects.
So a lot of these guys are tied up.
And we have to spend that money by 2025, and so there's a rush to spend it on these projects due to that length of time to get materials and get the construction completed. These projects need to start this summer in order to really come to fruition and be paid in full by the time the reimbursement requirement closes.
And so we'll narrow it down. There'll be a detailed phase proposal that will be due on June 7th, or June 30th. We'll request them on June 7th. They'll be due on June 30th. And if possible, we'll award the project on July 14th. So you can see already initially, we could have a contractor and builder on board July 14th.
So what kind of creative control would you have in choosing particular options and things for the school? Because initial cost is one thing, but overall operational cost of the building over its lifetime is way more expensive than whatever initial cost product of what you're spending initially on a better product.
Right. So
I
what
mean-
we've asked for, Jason, is several options on heating and air on each. You know, the high end of that is the geothermal systems. That's, you know, if we were trying to build a lead school.
That may not be necessary in this climate, but something like having proper indoor like facilities where you keep some of the equipment out of the weather and
Right.
things like that add cost, but over the lifetime, those pay for themselves. Same thing with like flooring, like something like terrazzo is much more expensive up front, but by the time you focus of polishing floors every year and the wax and the efforts and the chemicals and the time and the disruptions for all that don't have to occur with something like terrazzo, the cost of putting in something more expensive is mute at that point, and
So
you should
that'll-
invest in the better product up front.
Right, and that'll all be part of their proposals that they'll bring to us.
So I guess the
To us.
formula of this question, to get back to the original point of it, is like, what, do we have some control over those final options and things that we choose to make as choices when we pay the bill?
What we'll know going this route is what that costs before we get into a contract. So if we like something, you know, there'll be a committee review, it will be taken to the board to approve. If there's a school that we like and we know how much it costs and it's within budget, that'd be great. With the way things are going right now, you know.
Yeah,
it's-
costs keep going up and up and up.
They're going up. So, you know, that's sort of one of the big advantages of this is we know early on what those cost differentials could be.
But at the end of the day, you either choose to, the taxpayers are gonna foot the bill now, or they're gonna foot a bigger bill later, like.
Thing that Travis mentioned to me was that when they get to the point of reviewing the responses to their RFP, he had asked if 2 members of the Board of Supervisors could sit on that committee. And I know that Mr. Lee was on the community group that, you know, talked about new schools in the past. I didn't know if he would be one of those who might want to be on that committee, or if that's something that the board thinks is you know, prudent. So, and you don't have to make a decision tonight, I'm just throwing that out there for you. So,
No, I mean, I think that would be pertinent. I mean, at the end of the day, we have to fund this, so
True.
making sure that the taxpayers get the best bang for their buck is our main role of this roll-up here, so
yeah.
I think any way we can support the school and making that happen is good, beneficial to both boards and the constituency of Lancaster County as a whole.
I agree with that.
And we
I
have
think
a
it shows
solar,
that-
we have a
shows that
solar facility
we
that will
invested in
power
it.
it.
Right.
Because that was one of the strangest questions I got last week. I got a phone call, wanted to know if the Board of Supervisors was really serious about new schools. And I thought it was very strange, you know. I said, of course we serious about it. And I think they kind of feel like we've been playing games for about 10 years.
I also think it helps us continue the good working relationship we
Yeah.
built with the school
Yeah.
over the last few years, so.
Okay.
All right, Mr. Chairman, and I'm just taking these in order of magnitude here. The next one is, the next largest amount is the expansion of the Kilmarnock Convenience Center site. And I've got our refuge solid waste supervisor, Donald Brown, here. He can offer, you know, some perspective on that, what, you know, what's included in that big number, and answer any questions that you all may have. So Donald, come on up. As you've seen in the package that you got at your last meeting and the package that's online, it would basically double the size of the existing Kilmarnock Convenience Center site. It would be an upgrade to the recyclable portion of that site. It would add a third compactor to that site. It would replace the baler that bales cardboard, and that baler would be capable of baling aluminum and plastic as well.
That is correct.
Yeah, and so I feel like I'm stealing your thunder, Donald, so go ahead.
Well, a little bit about the expansion. We're looking to double the size pretty much of the Kilmarnock Center because everything is so tight in there. The traffic is terrible. We have a terrible traffic problem. So the idea around this is to add an entrance across from Mal Ransom's entrance on White Pine Drive as the new entrance, and the new area is what we call it. That would be the recycling area. Then the citizens would come around to the trash area is what we're labeling it right now. But we're looking to add a third compactor in there. And I didn't get to present that to the planning commission on how much it was gonna cost. I don't believe, did I, Don?
No, you didn't.
I did finally get that quote from them. That would be an extra cost to add a third compactor of $773 per month. So we're pretty much looking at annually $9,276. That's not including the usage and the fees for the usage, like transportation fee, tonnage fee, things of that nature. I did do a breakdown on if we use that third machine at least twice per week, with the rental fee and the service fees, we're probably looking at an estimated yearly cost of $71,156.64. But we did come up with a plan to only use that third machine when we really have to as a backup. That would reduce the cost of the waste management contract bill dramatically. Another thing, I have a breakdown here of each item that comes out to the $678,990.27. With the asphalt, we're probably looking at $100,000 for that. Concrete pads, which we would need 4 total, and replace the current 2 that are existing there. That we're probably looking at $40,000 for that. We would have to add more phase converters to convert the single phase into 3 phase for the new machine and the other machine, as well as the baler. So we're probably looking at $23,942 for that. That was an online estimate that I received for that. Now the multi-material baler. This can, like Don explained, this can do plastic, aluminum, steel. It's a multi-purpose. It can do everything but glass. And we would be able to bale what we could sell, and there are options out there for us to generate revenue from the plastics, the newspaper, as well as the aluminum. All right, I am also including in this, to ask for a metal garage, which would be a recycling building to house the new baler. And that would be the central point for the recycling material to be sorted and separated and baled. I'm also asking, and that actually, let me go back to that, that's actually $71,418.97. Next item is the loafing shed, which is a 20 by 100, and that's for the bale storage. We need to keep the bales out of the weather. The cardboard deteriorates very quickly over time, and sometimes it sits there for maybe 20 to 30 days before it's picked up. Now we're actually getting 2 loads per month out of there. So we're probably looking at 63 bales per month now. I'm also asking for a second attendance building, which is a guard booth to house a second employee, because if it is approved to expand the Kilmarnock Center, we would have to add additional staffing and have 2 people there at all times, and especially we would have to have staff in the recycling building at all times. And that is a cost of $11,225. And just like accessories that we would need to make this successful would be like a self-dumping forklift hopper, and I would need actually 7 of those. That's what we would use to handle the recycling material. That comes in at about $10,276 even. The next item would be a forklift mount front end loader. This is just a scoop tilt kind of bucket, and it would actually, we would use that to move material around as needed, and that comes in at $1,964. Next item I'm asking for within this is a forklift mount magnet. This is for parking lot maintenance, because if we expand, the area will be much greater. This will be used for nail pickup and removal. That's been a big problem in the past. With the amount
Tire
of
punctures for, yeah, like
yeah,
that,
with the amount of area that we have in Kilmarnock currently, we can't cover it all by foot.
Yeah.
Even if you do, you miss it. And this would definitely pick up anything that is left on the pavement. That comes in at $11,397. We would also need, actually, the next item would be 4 12-yard recycling boxes for transport and sorting and storage. That comes in at $21,485.80, and we would also, next item would be lumber supplies we would build stalls on the other side of the recycling building to actually store the recycling materials from the other facilities, and then sort through it as we get to it. That comes in at $3,200. I'd be glad to answer any questions that you may have at this time.
For your present equipment that you have, your forklift, so where do you store them? Are they outside, or do you have a storage shed for it?
Right now, it sits on the outside in existing weather.
Would it be better if you had a storage shed for them to protect them, last longer?
Well, if we had this recycling building, that's large enough to house that forklift as well.
Okay. 'Cause my thinking is, since we were starting to expand and got expenses, if you need anything else for your equipment to protect it, let's
Right.
put it in there.
The original plan was to build a lean-to for the forklift, but that never came about. The former building inspector was supposed to do that, and that never came about.
My only question is, I don't necessarily really have a concern or think we not need to expand or improve this site, but long-term, I think we need to be looking at additional sites somewhere instead of having all the traffic from the lower part of the county bottlenecked into that one site. I've indicated to Don and a potential site, I would like to see us continue to pursue that as a potential option. I'm not sure if you've been briefed on that at all or aware of that.
I have been briefed on that, yes.
I don't know what your thoughts of that. It's more, I don't really want to tip the hat too much on that right at this moment, but I would like to see that considered to be still pursued. Because I think we, long-term for this county, need to have another site in the lower side of the county somewhere in order to meet the capacity and growth over time. Because even if we approve this, it still creates a lot of traffic and bottleneck to one site, especially on the busy weekends and
It does.
during the
Absolutely.
summer when it's really a lot of traffic. It's, if you've been down there, it fills up quick, and when you go there as an individual person, you can see it sometimes, but otherwise it builds up quickly, and there's a lot more traffic, I think, than people realize.
It is, and especially on a Saturday and Sunday. Right now, we currently have people going in all directions. This proposed expansion would bring them in one way and they would exit at the existing entrance now. So it would be just like a wraparound.
I didn't quite understand where you would come in. You said, would you turn into Mel Ransom's facility?
No,
No,
right
no.
across from it, directly across
on
from
White
his.
Pine Drive.
Gotcha, okay.
Yeah.
And so are you expanding your landscape, or is all this going to fit in that blacktopped area that you have now?
It's going to be an additional area cleared.
Okay.
Yeah, it's doubling the size of the Kilmarnock, the current Kilmarnock site.
And actually with the expanding at 22,000 square feet with the entrance, it would actually be a total of 40,750 square feet.
Okay.
Jason, another thing to think about on the traffic is, I don't know exactly the layout when the schools get there, but that will certainly be in that vicinity, and I would think create more of a problem there too, so,
Could potentially.
Yeah.
yeah, so
Yes,
just
it's
something to think about too, but that could be a real crucial point there, depending on how they lay out the roads for the schools.
Yeah, well, VDOT has the ultimate control over that.
Yeah.
Just a couple of comments, if I may. This isn't abandoning the search for a fourth site. This is just, we see a need to expand the Kilmarnock site. So, and we figured that can be done relatively quickly. Donald mentioned, some additional costs associated with the expansion being, additional staff, and the monthly tonnage expenditures for the volume associated with that third compactor. Those expenses would be handled under his operating budget moving forward. The $678,990, I think, is a very good estimate for the capital improvement budget. Yeah. So, and the final thing I would say is, right now, currently, the only recyclable that generates any revenue for the county is cardboard. We do have recyclable containers for plastic and aluminum, but we currently haul them to Right Way Recycling, and we pay close to $1,000 a month to do that. So those recyclables are not generating any revenue for us. If we do this expansion the way Donald has it set up, and we start baling, plastic and aluminum, the same outfit company that purchases their cardboard would also purchase
Well, there's different outlets for each item.
Is there a legitimate outlet for plastic recyclables right now? Because
There is, but we would have to get in contact with them and get them on board. I have found out through them that is an option that we can do if this is to come about.
Because the whole plastic recycling thing was really a bamboozle on the public and from the start. And is it really worth it to even have recycling for plastic, and just that stuff should just be going in the trash where it's really going ultimately? Anyhow, we're paying for recyclables for plastic, and then it's just hauled off to somewhere and then sent to the landfill. That's the reality of most of it.
That is correct.
And if the public needs to be aware of the realities of the whole process and the picture, not just the bullshit that was sold to us that plastics are recyclable, which is just not true.
But the aluminum would
Aluminum, we could definitely.
would definitely
that's
generate some revenue.
Some revenue and stuff from that, but I'm just wondering if we even should even continue having plastic recyclables and paying any fee for it, and people should just be throwing it away, which is the reality that happens
Don't
anyhow.
forget about glass. Glass is right there with plastic as well. There's really nowhere to get rid of that as either, you know, so.
So I think the public needs to be made more aware of the recyclable process, and that the reality is that a lot of the things that we recycle don't have any value, and we're paying basically twice for them to be put in a recyclable process, but then the recycling process just hauls them off to the landfill anyhow.
I mean, a lot of places suspend those services due to this same problem. And that's what we may end up having to do as an option, you know, if that's something that you all would want to do.
It seems like it would add cost to you for no apparent reason.
Yeah, right now, we're paying about $10,000 a year to get rid of the plastic.
All right, let me ask this question. We're paying $10,000 to get rid of the way we're doing it now. But if we stop this, will we still pay that $10,000? We just do it to a different person, a different company? You understand what I'm trying to say?
Basically, it becomes waste. How much would that add to the cost
Yeah.
of waste management, hauling it off as trash?
Right.
Would the differential be the same, or would it
I
one be
kinda think
cheaper than the other? Or?
I think it would be less, actually, because it would fit in with our regular daily tonnage.
I agree, and I mean, I think ultimately it ends up in the landfill anyhow is the ultimate point. So we're paying for something that people think they're getting, but they're really not.
Right.
Plus, when you look at the plastic stuff, they throw a lot of junk in there along with it that they
Yeah,
call plastic.
Most of it in the recycling bins are just municipal waste.
Well, that's also the nature of commingling recycling. It makes it really easy in a municipality to have it, but the reality is 90% of it goes to the landfill at the end of the day because it gets ruined because of water damage or food damage or whatever else is
Contamination.
commingled together and destroys those particular, what was a good recyclable like cardboard is no longer if it's soiled with oil or some other food product or something like that.
So if we're looking at a couple years down the road of having another facility in Whitestone, are we looking at this Kilmarnock being an oversized, underused facility now?
I don't
I
think
don't think so. I don't think so. I've been on this for how long, Don?
Long time.
A long time, and it's not gonna be oversized and underused, I can tell you
Even
that.
if you added a fourth location, I think Kilmarnock would still be as busy as it is.
Okay.
Because we have people right now going to the one out of the county on Route 200. They're in license, but they going to that one just to avoid going to Kilmarnock.
Well, like Craig said, at some point, we may want to direct some of that traffic away from Kilmarnock and towards another spot.
Yeah,
Yeah, well,
or at least attempting to.
yeah,
Yeah.
that's attempt.
Temp is the right word.
But you know,
I
like I
think
said,
if
I've
we-
been on this for a long time. That facility needs some drastic.
Yeah, no,
If we could develop that potential site, I think you could people would eventually kind of split between like Kilmarnock and Irvington would go over to that side, and the people in Fleets Bay and Windmill Point could go over to the Whitestone site. Hopefully it would move some of that traffic, but at the end of the day, as growth is occurring over time, we're gonna need to look to have a site, and it's kind of like public access. It's easier to do it now and have fourth site planning than it is to try to do it later down the road, and people, I don't want that next to me, and no, that's not a good site, and get into where we are.
Yeah, so just because we're gonna pour some money in this, we don't wanna lose sight that we need that other place, and we'll keep looking
Right, that's correct.
aggressively.
Okay. Thank you, sir.
All right, thank you.
Well, Donald did have a couple of other items, but they're smaller. One is a truck replacement. He currently drives, how old is your truck you drive, Donald?
It is 21 years old,
And how many miles does it have on it?
191,480.
And it's an S10, I think it is?
S10.
Yeah,
yes.
what we're looking at is
That's late
replacing.
mileage for that age, but you've kept a good truck.
Yeah, it's been an excellent truck.
He wants a F-150 Platinum?
Well, no, he wants he wants a 250 like our maintenance person has, and also with a snowplow on it, because, you know, during inclement weather, when we have snow. If he had a snowplow also, we have a snowplow for our maintenance truck, but if he had one on his truck, he could clear the sites and get them open quicker for our citizens. So, and the third item he has is just to replace the attendant building at the Nutsville Convenience Center. And Donald, how old is that building?
That's well over 30 years on.
Yeah.
That used to be the attendance building at the Murray Point Ferry, I do believe.
Do we really think we can get a vehicle, a truck, a 250 for 48,000? That seems low.
That's a state bid.
Is it? Okay.
Yeah,
That's a good price then,
Yeah.
right now.
It's a really good price.
yeah. Of course, that's bare bones, you know, nothing. So, but that was the other two items that Donald had. So.
You mean it doesn't have leather seats and JBL speakers?
No.
You don't have Sirius Radio?
OnStar?
Yeah. All right. Anything else for Donald?
Thank you, sir.
All right, thank you, gentlemen.
All right, well, the sheriff's office has a few items on, and Jeffrey, I'll just, with the chairman's permission, turn it over to you.
All right, you want to talk about old items? No, we're not going there. I'm one of them, but the items that I have, see by the ranking up there, the HVAC replacement, that's just a yearly thing we do with maintenance and replacement. We did have one new one. But 3 years ago, we put a split unit in our, what we call the Oz room up front. It's adjacent, but it's separated by a wall up in the front where we have a lot of rack equipment for the radio and recorder and those kind of things. Well, that unit just isn't covering that room, and we're having to put fans in there and leave the door open and those kind of things to keep that equipment from overheating. So one of those items included in that list is a new split unit for that. The other one is to replace the air conditioner in the kitchen at the jail, and the biggest one is to replace a unit on top of the roof back in one of the jail pods. And I try to keep those in a yearly rotation so that we don't run into a lot of maintenance costs, those kind of things, and keep them up to date. The next item was the vehicle. That's a patrol vehicle. We've been using the Ford Explorers, which have worked out really well for us. They're four-wheel drive. They're good in inclement weather. They will have enough space to haul the stuff, that our equipment that our guys have to take around for everyday patrol. So they worked out well for us. The next item I had was the sheriff's office server room. We've got a lot of state projects. Glenn and I are working with one now. We've got ECNet coming in to work with dispatch to upgrade that. That room in there, through the years, we had an old rack in there. We've outgrown the rack. We've got a bunch of wires running here, there, and everywhere. We've got more stuff coming in this summer. So we looked at our IT people that we hire for our yearly services, and this is a quote they gave us to come in and install a new rack, straighten the wires there, run them like they're supposed to be, make the room more efficient and look like it's supposed to look, instead of being scared to go in there. So the last item I've got, and there was some question about that, it's a drone that we would like to purchase. Northumberland has one now. Matthew currently has one for the county. His was quite a bit less than what we're asking for, but ours has more capabilities. The capabilities that we're looking for and that we need for to do searches, rescues. We can even help Matthew with doing damage assessments in the county. To explain some of the costs and features that it has, I'm by no means a drone pilot, or that's my specialty. So to explain the costs and different things, I brought Wade and David Zimbro here that are with the Zetas company that they can answer your questions, and they even have a demo model they can show you. You can pass it around or whatever you want to do to look at what we're looking for. But this would enhance, we got a grant, and we're purchasing handheld infrared to help us with searches, and also the grant was able to get us night vision goggles. But this will also, it'll cover a whole lot more ground than what we can cover.
I'd
So
like
I'm
to
gonna turn
see
it over
it.
to.
Yeah, I'd like to see it if we
Yep,
can.
we're
Can
gonna turn
you
it over to them.
fly it around the room? Does it shoot ammo?
I've got you.
And by the way, this is Sheriff Beecham's drone. He just dropped it off to me this afternoon, so I have to be very careful with it.
Well,
This
that's,
drone-
Northumberland will pay to replace it.
Yeah.
It's Rappahannock that doesn't pay.
This is very similar to the drone that we spec'd out for Lancaster. It actually has infrared thermal and a high definition zoom lens on there. The one that we spec'd out for Lancaster actually will be,
People in virtual.
I got you. The one we spec'd out for Lancaster actually will be of higher resolution on the FLIR. And the big thing is about this is that we came along back in 2014. We're based over in Wycomico Church. And we originally started off as, I'll place it right here, you guys can pass it around if you like. It's not gonna hurt you. We came on, and my father actually was the one who started building drones. When gas prices started going up on boats, he started getting into a hobby where he was building drones from scratch, and next thing you know, realtors wanted to take pictures of photography, and I didn't really want to do photography anymore. I didn't really like it. I wanted to do something with a higher purpose, and I knew at that time that first responders were going to be using drones. And even I had friends who were police officers at the time telling me, nah man, that we really don't see the use in that. And for me just to be standing here in front of you guys today, after believing in it so many years ago, and then having all the programs that we've executed across the state, we've executed a program with Fairfield's Volunteer Fire Department, which I'm a part of, a lieutenant. We also executed an RFP with Caroline County Fire Service, where we actually augment them with all of our equipment. And of course, we're most proud of our recent program with Northumberland County Sheriff's Department. With our programs, we basically go from teaching them in the classroom, they go and get their license. Then we go, second phase is go out in the field for 5 days, and we teach them how to fly. Then we go and we take it up a couple notches. We put a missing person, a missing dummy out in the field, and we do grid search patterns. And we work in teams. We work in one-man teams, two-man teams, three-man teams. So everybody's interseamlessly working, and they know how the positions help out. So if you go over to the next slide. So basically, how have drones changed the first responder world is, to date, they've saved over 500 lives. They benefit rural areas the most. In the cities, you have a whole lot of congested airspace, and it's very hard to put a drone up in the air with the amount of buildings, airspace, other aircraft that are going on. On top of that, cities have a lot more funding when it comes down to it. If we have a search and rescue where we do not have an aircraft, we have to actually call, and Jeffrey, stop me if I'm wrong, but you have to call in the state police with the FLIR. And they come out of Richmond. It takes them about approximately an hour if they can make it out. And helicopters, I remember, I do believe Sheriff Doc Lyons, he called out a helicopter for a search and rescue we were part of over at Kingston Road over in Northumberland County. And the helicopter got there, they went up in the air. We actually got up in the air before them and were able to do a grid search pattern in high winds, and were able to search before they got there. We went ahead and grounded our aircraft. They came in. Actually, Major Beecham at the time was in the aircraft, and next thing you know, actually one of the belts broke on the aircraft. So it was luckily just the air conditioning belt, but they went ahead and grounded the aircraft, and then they couldn't come back out. So that puts that department at a rock and a hard place. They're relying on state police or other resources to come in and search. We can cover a lot of mileage. We have a lot of equipment. Part of the package that we're basically selling with Lancaster is that you're including us. You're including Northumberland County too. Because if we can have more drone teams with more equipment that all works and syncs together, you can have a faster and effective search when it comes down to it. You go over to the next slide, please. So there's 4 elements to a successful drone program. The drone itself, the license, and when it comes down to the license and information, they have to go and take their test. Right now, Lancaster has said if they go with this program, they will have 6 deputies, so that's 6 Part 107 pilots. You could effectively almost have 6, if you had 6 drones, you could have 6 drones flying in the air and covering a lot of area, a lot of square mileage. The training itself, it's not just go up in the air and fly it around and point the camera down and just go in zigzag formations. There's an exact science to it that we are constantly developing. And in training, we do this science where we come in, we give them the scenario, we say, listen, there's a missing person. Last we have is a shirt, that's what their shirt looks like. They're somewhere over in this area, and we just kind of point. And we have a place out there, and we go to work. We methodically go step by step. Okay, what's the first thing you do? Check the aircraft, check the airspace, check the weather. All these steps have to be in place to have an effective search. And this is what we do with our program. And of course, lastly is the maintenance and ongoing training. We train with Northumberland County once a year. Just effectively go out and stretch our legs kind of thing. We pick different areas in the county and have a search and rescue. And last one we did, actually, I went ahead and hid the dummy out there. I gave them the scenario from the night before. There's a missing person out there. There's the campsite. That's it. That's all I'm telling you. Because that's basically what happens when it comes down to a search. I don't even point in a general direction. And they actually found within an hour. So the big thing about maintenance and ongoing training, what we've seen with a lot of departments, that they go and they buy a drone and they don't know what to do with it. They hear of a missing person and they kind of go, okay, well, we're just going to go put it up in the air, we're just going to fly back and forth, or they go to turn it on and guess what, the batteries are dead. The software is not upgraded. The firmware is not checked. Their airspace is not clear to fly. There's a lot of complexities to this, and that's what we do in our program, is we go step by step on exactly what happens through all this stuff and what you need to do. There are things called geofences. There's actually a geofence over top of this facility because of the jail. We flew this in the backyard. Basically, it stops you and will not allow you to go into that area because it's jail. A lot of prisoners have actually turned drones to bad purposes. But when you're the sheriff's department, you can actually, there's ways to break that geofence and go into areas like that. So, lastly, my key point is that when some people buy a drone and they do a program, is they're kind of scared of it. They don't know how to use it, and it sits there on the shelf and collects dust. And that's not what we want to do. So that's the reason why we came with this company, and that's my main goal and mission, is not to really go out and make a whole bunch of money off of this industry, because it's very, very strange what's going on out there in the drone industry. I want to find a person. That's what I want to do. When there's a missing person, I believe this is the solution compared to everything else that we do. VDEM called us out, I do believe, about 2 or 3 years ago, and this is before Northumberland County had their drone program, so they only had us. We got to the Upper Lancaster facility, checked into the station with Incident Command, and they basically said, well, we want you guys to do, because it was hot, it was summertime, the lady was suffering from dementia, she went missing the night before. They wanted us to search cornfields, because they could not send the dogs in there. It was too hot, they would get lost, they would get disorientated. So we could go up, search the cornfield, go back and forth, bring back the data down, process it, and then move on. Make fine, did not make fine. Luckily, she ended up turning up later on, about an hour into by the time we got there. But that just shows you that VDEM even has a purpose for us and tells us where to go, what to do. And of course, when a search initially starts, the sheriff's office is directly responsible when it comes down to it. So time is very valuable. For us getting up in the air within 20 to 25 minutes compared to calling the state with a FLIR helicopter within an hour, and if they can come down there, to me, you can't buy that. Same thing with damage assessment. Tornadoes have ravaged us over in Northumberland County too, just as well as y'all. Finding out where roadways are, where you can go, where you cannot go, putting it up in the air, doing a grid search pattern, you can actually create a map within 20 minutes. A detailed process map that gives the incident commanders, okay, this is blocked out, this is where we need to go first, this is where people are trapped. Go next slide, please. So this is a little bit about the drone that you don't see before you. Actually, it's going to be more of an upgrade compared to what we have for Lancaster. It's a FLIR of a higher resolution. It has a 48 megapixel visual camera, 32 digital zoom. It actually has a speaker attachment, a spotlight, and a beacon. You can only do 1, 2, or 3 of the others. And this one comes with this. What's outfitted with it right now is a beacon. It's a very bright flashlight. You can see it almost within 3 miles. So other aircraft can almost see it. And of course, the operator needs to see it too. They have to have eyes locked on that drone at all times. It also has a speaker attachment and a flashlight attachment on there for night flying. Next slide, please. So how we break it down is the first part of our session is a classroom of 3 days. We go through airspace, we go through aviation, team management, aeronautical flight procedures, aviation rules and regulations, maintenance procedures. And what happens with this is that we prepare them for their Part 107 drone operator exam. It is not given by us, it is given by the FAA at one of their test sites, and it lasts for 2 years. Every 2 years you have to go back and take your recurrent license. And it's it's probably one of the most challenging tests I've ever taken before, because it's learning something that a lot of people are familiar with. When you look at those aeronautical maps, there's a lot of symbols on there, there's a lot of airspace knowledge on there, stuff that not very many people are familiar with. And that's what we prepare them for, is to pass this test. Once they pass their test, everybody passes, then we go to the next slide, please. We do 5 practical days. It's a total of 40 hours. If we feel that the students are not quite grasping it, then we go to a 6th or 7th day. That's not a problem. But the skills that we learn are team management, maintenance, weather, data analysis, safety, ground station setup. Of course, procedures that we do are search and rescue, warrant seizure, damage assessment, active shooter, hostage scenario, crime scene recreation, and large-scale events, having an eye in the sky.
Can you speak to that a little bit more?
Yes, sir.
On the privacy side of this, and what would be
Yes.
requirements like of them using this technology for
Yes.
surveillance or
Yes,
some
sir.
sort of
So-
evidence collection?
Yes. So, from what it was told to me, is that if I was standing on the street, out here on the public road, and I was holding my camera, and I was taking pictures inside, say, your window, that's fine. But if at the minute I take a stick, put it up in there, and try to look into your windows, that's not good. I'm not supposed to be doing that. Them taking the evidence to court, they have to clear that with the attorney. It's the same thing when they go to do the evidence collection. How did you take it? Did you have a Part 107? That's more the questions that we pose to them. Say, hey, from a law standpoint, you guys need to know what's legal and everything like that. We're going to teach you how to do damage assessment and search and rescue, how to fly this thing. But when it comes to the legal aspect of things, that falls on them.
Because that's the only issue I could see where there could be some hot water that could be created
Right.
around a program
Right.
like this. It'd have to be closely looked at, because we wouldn't want to get in legal trouble or
That's right.
a lawsuit back against the county for some reason.
Correct.
For illegal surveillance or something along those
Yes,
lines.
sir. They have. I'm sure they have to have a warrant. I can't speak to it. I'm not a police officer when it comes down to it. But if for it to hold up in court, I'm sure they're going to have everything buttoned up and T's crossed and I's dotted when it comes down to the legal aspect of that. So it's a very good question. We get asked that a lot. So, but like I said, I put that back on them. They make them aware of it. Talk to the district attorney. That falls on you all.
We do, when we go in and do search warrants and those type of things, we get in touch with the Commonwealth Attorney first, tell him what we have, advise him, and he kind of guides us in the right direction of what we need to do. So this would be along the same lines. If this is going to be used, now if it's a training type thing, we're going to train somewhere, and obviously we're not going to be going looking for something. We'll be in an open field training, whatever the situation may be that they recommend. But yeah, this is endorsed by Tony Spencer. He's like, hey, whatever, assets we can use to make convictions, this is going to help. I'm all for it. But we work close with him on any type of warrant seizures and stuff like that.
Any other questions?
I've got one.
Yes, sir.
I have to say, when I first saw the cost, 24 for a drone, I sort of stepped back a little bit, but I am guessing, and if you can clear it up for me, that drone, it may have some specialized cameras and things, but it didn't look much different than a lot I've seen. Is a lot of this training is what is involved in this cost, or can you give me sort of a breakdown of that?
Yes, sir. On the last slide, I'll show you all
Okay.
the cost per what each, I kind of put it into buckets.
Okay.
We can go ahead and go to the last slide. That's fine if you want. So how we break it out is the classroom day is 3 days, and that's $3,400, and that's taught by myself and my business partner, Mark Sean, who could not make it out here tonight. The practical days where we're out in the field, those are 8-hour-long days. We do have weather delays and stuff like that, so we kind of try to put them 2 to 3 days back to back to try to knock them out. That's $9,850. And then the drone equipped with the FLIR and the accessory package. Now this accessory package is everything that you see in this box and plus some more things like tripods, the batteries. We recommend 4 sets of batteries. And the reason why we recommend 4 sets of batteries is because we have a quick charging station, and especially when we have a large scale event where we have to constantly be up in the air, the batteries last for about half an hour, and they take all 4 batteries. You can honestly keep on going up in the air after you change the battery, going up in the air. You can stay up in the air basically all day long. The FLIR is probably the most expensive with the infrared cost-wise when you think about on that drone, on that package. It's top of the line, it's a high resolution, and that's probably the real reason why it's the most expensive. You can go down to some of these models, because I have a similar model to this, but it's like the generation 1 of it. It's just a camera, and right now that's probably less than $1,000. But with this, the quick battery chargers, all the accessories and equipment that we recommend, we give them the best bang for their buck kind of thing for the package. Now, that's if we are not there. Our commitment to the county, and the same thing to Northumberland County, is that if you all go with us, then you will have access to our equipment too, our ground stations. We cross-train on our drones. I have one of my larger drones to show you guys in comparison to what that is. And we train on that stuff, so I can feel comfortable sending Jeffrey with a team out to somewhere else. I don't have to be there and go and cover another area with my equipment. I have full faith and trust in that. That's what we do when we go to train. And it's the same thing with those guys you see featured on the screen. I trust every single one of those guys with my equipment. It's when we go to train. That's another resource. Yes, sir.
The training, so you train this time, then you come back, I think in one of the other slides, you come back every year or every couple of years or
Yes,
something.
sir.
So is that an additional cost?
No, sir.
So it's no additional cost to come back and refresh or whatever?
No, sir. No, sir. And
Now, if it was a new deputy coming in to get the training the first time, I imagine there's a cost for that.
well, what we did was we put into there's a couple of things that, there's the extra $1,000 that more falls back on the sheriffs. We don't, that's not our bucket. Our bucket, I think, is $24,000, somewhere around there. What is in that is actually, there's a module course on there. What we do is we recommend the sheriff's office to buy that module course, and then anytime they have a new deputy that comes online, they can train on that module course, and it'll give them the full classroom training. It won't have us come in there, but they will still be able to learn and how to take the test. And so when they come back out in the field, we will give them, of course, a refresher course with their, the other classmates who came in. So it will be kind of it won't be a hands-on completely and totally, but once or twice a year. We're hoping to try to get at least twice a year. I mean, if we have Northumberland County at once a year, but between scheduling, weather, and stuff like that, I mean, that's how it just works out the way it is at once a year. But the more people you have out in the field, the more things you gotta think of on logistics. But it's a fun experience. We learn a lot. But yes, that was at no additional cost to the county. Yes, sir.
Hey, Don, I guess I was gonna ask, would the equipment part be appropriate in the capital budget and then the training maybe move? Or I'm just thinking capital budget with the training in there. I mean, it's a technicality, I guess, but I'm getting hung up there.
I don't think that having the training in the initial purchase of this is out of line in the capital improvement budget. I think it's okay.
All right. No, I'm better with that drone cost now, seeing it, when you first see that 25, thinking.
Yes, sir.
That's a drone, that helps, so thank you.
Yes, sir.
So
Yes, sir.
you mentioned earlier that, that as a operator, you can't let the beacon leave your site.
That's right.
Is that a law or?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes. You can, the way the FAA writes the law is that you can, as long as you can see it, you're fine. But then again, this small drone, 3 miles away, is very, very, very hard to see. I do not recommend it when we go out in training to fly it 3 miles out. It can actually go up to 5 miles out. We do not recommend it. Plus the search area, if you take a 3 mile search area, it's nearly impossible between battery time to basically do all that. It doesn't really benefit you. When we do a search or damage assessment, they're almost the same thing. What we do is we look at our area and square mileage. How far has the victim gone? We have all those numbers to search and rescue. Take a dementia person actually can cover up to 0.6 miles. That's usually where they make the find. So what we do is we grid it out. There's a program that we put into our apps or our phones, and basically we say, we want you to take a picture once every 5 seconds and have a little bit of overlap when it comes down to it. Take the picture, take the picture, take the picture, and it basically goes back and forth in a zigzag formation. And so when those pictures come down, you can also see it on your iPad as they're going. So if you do make a find, you can pause it right there and then and find the GPS coordinates right there. It will state it on the drone. And you can send somebody automatically out to it. Now, if you don't, you have to take those pictures down, and it depends on what your grid pattern is. It can be up to 200, 300 pictures sometimes. That's a lot to look through. So we also teach that. We put it up on the big screen and say, start looking through pictures. In the meantime, put another battery in, put another chip in, let's go back up and search the other left-hand side. While the other person is sitting there looking for a find, and if they do make a find, you can extract the GPS coordinate right off the picture and send the person right to there.
Are you in full control of the grid pattern, or is that programmed?
It's all programmed, but the big thing is, in case we have other aircraft come in, because those A-10 Warthogs scare me, the living bejesus out of me. Those are my biggest fear when flying in this area, is that low-flying aircraft, we have to yield to them. We are the little guys on the totem pole when it comes down to it, according to the FAA. So we have to bring it down by any means necessary. So yes, we talk about exit procedures in one-day class. So we act like an aircraft is coming in, and we say, okay, this is what you need to do. You need to brake it, listen, hear, look, bring it down, or just hover and wait for them to go. And let's go ahead and restart our search pattern. So yes, we do talk about that all the time, because we've had some incidents where we've heard those low-flying aircraft before, and we've put the pause button. So it's quite scary, but we have ways to train on that. Yes, sir. Very good question.
Any additional questions? Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Yes, sir.
And again, I will reiterate that you are not approving a purchase from this particular vendor tonight. You're just hearing the capabilities of this drone and
Putting the money in.
putting the money in the capital improvement budget.
I appreciate the presentation.
Yes, sir. Tom?
Yeah, and it goes in line with, we've got a Project Lifesaver team that we have, and that, anyone with Alzheimer's, Down syndrome, any type of brain injury that has symptoms of making you want to wander, we put a bracelet on them that has a transmitter, and we have a receiver. So a lot of your sheriff's offices that have the Project Lifesaver also utilize these to help in the search to bring that person back. And being the percentage of elderly people that we have that are citizens, we feel like this will enhance the services of helping them out as well. Staying ahead of crime, we try to keep in the 21st century. So this is one step to help us keep ahead of that. Plus, it's can serve the county in many other ways. Like I said, if there's a tornado, hurricane, disaster, whatever it may be. My 13 years as a fire chief, I was asked, how can you justify that amount of money for that piece of equipment? When are you going to use it? And I looked at that person, and I said, you know what? If we don't use it but once a year and it saves a life, how much was that life worth? And I've always lived by that.
And I would think, Jeffrey, you go into certain situations where you're not familiar with the area and you're going in for whatever reason you need to go in, you could use it to, legally, scope it out first.
Sure.
To get a layout of what your men will be looking at before they
And
go in.
a lot of times, we don't know what we're going into looking for suspects. At least if you know the lay of the land and know where that person's at, you've got a heads up on getting that person and getting our guys back safe home.
You say you have a larger one?
Yes, sir.
Okay.
Would you like to see?
Yes.
Can we
That's
fly,
okay.
can we fly it inside here, or is that
We
asking
take
too
a
much?
break and
That's
go
a
like-
passenger plane that comes with a stewardess and onboard beverages.
Did I hear you correct? You said you were gonna let Jeffrey fly this?
I'll be over at your house.
I got concerns that
I have that much confidence in our force.
he lives just down the street from me, so I'm very concerned.
This is one of the ones that I can actually have a second controller. So when I go to train people, I can override them.
Okay.
So that's the reason why we like training, because it's a little bit, the larger they are, the easier they are to fly, actually.
Okay.
The camera actually gets mounted down below. This rises up. And when it goes into flight mode, it'll rise back to this position. But there's a little bit of interchangeability on payload on this. We cannot do infrared on this. We can only do a high definition DSLR camera. So
How large are the blades for that?
So does it have extra capabilities that the smaller one wouldn't, or?
on battery time, it's about the same.
Okay.
Actually, the little one has the FLIR. This doesn't have the FLIR. But when we do day searches, it really comes down to the high definition cameras. I mean, so every single drone has the same capabilities during the day. At night, we haven't had much practice at night. That's actually going to be our next training, because the FAA about a year ago, they were not allowing anybody with a Part 107 license to fly at night. You had to get a special permit, which we put in for when we got it, but we could only do it at a certain area. But now the FAA has said you can fly at night all you like, as long as you have it. It was kind of weird the way the FAA runs things, but they were saying hobbyists could fly their drones. And everybody's going, well, I can say I'm a hobbyist. I'm like, well, legality-wise, no, you're not. So, but yes, this is one of the aircrafts that we would use with the county if it would be a large situation.
Thank you.
So,
Okay. Mr. Gill?
Mr. Chairman, you had, it was a couple items on the capital improvement budget that our building official, Jim Cantor, addressed a couple weeks ago when he made his presentation. One was the boiler replacement in this building, just for Mr. Bellows' benefit, since he wasn't here that night. We had some issues getting the boilers up and running this year in this building. They're about 40 years old, and part of that 60,000 would be a study to determine what the most efficient replacement of that would be, and then the balance of that would be to actually replace them. That's that. The building and planning department software replacement, initially in the capital improvement budget, that figure was 75,000. We had only had one presentation from a vendor when the capital improvement budget was put together, and that was the number that was thrown out. We've had two subsequent presentations, and this is the dollar amount for replacement of that software. And some of the efficiencies would be that currently a building official and inspector come in, listen to a recorded phone message of the inspections, write them down, and then go out during the day. That kills up about an hour and a half in the morning. This software would do all of that ahead of time. When the calls are made, it would automatically generate a list. It would put that list in the most efficient travel pattern throughout the county.
Shouldn't that be in place, going into place right now?
Well,
We need to remove that off the capital project and fund it out of the operating budget and put it in.
well, we would need to do a supplemental appropriation, but we could do it that way.
I mean, this should be in place. Based on what's been going on with complaints and the process, this is a small expenditure, and I think it's operational, and it should be,
Well,
we need to move judiciously on it, not wait till June when the capital budget is
Well, we
approved.
Do I have a motion on that?
I agree with it.
I move that we remove
We're all on
the
board.
building and planning department software from the planning, from the CIP and fund it immediately out of the operational budget.
Okay.
All right, you've heard the motion. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any nay? Opposed, nay? All right, ayes have it.
Good deal. The only other item, Mr. Lee reminded me of it today, we don't have anything in here for public access. And this board has been adamant about increasing the sites and building out the sites that the county currently owns. And what we have, what Bill and I have talked about is a $500,000 figure for public access sites in FY23 that would help accomplish some of those goals.
What was that
We don't
figure
have
again?
any money for
I mean-
planning or anything in that,
Yeah.
As long as you just throw a number in there, that's all that really matters.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah,
That
we need some.
we're showing that we're pursuing it. What it
Right.
ultimately costs will just be what the
Yeah,
project,
that's a whole
Yeah,
different
and-
matter.
when you come up.
What was the
Yeah.
number you gave out?
500,000.
500,000.
And because the planning commission had gone through their process and sent this to the board after a public hearing, I think it's proper for the board to make a motion to add that 500,000, just as Mr. Bellows just made a motion to take out the 20,000.
I make that motion to add $500,000 to the capital improvement plan for public access.
All right, you've heard the motion. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, nay. Ayes have it.
Gentlemen, that is the capital improvement budget. I do want to run through the general operating budget to get some clarification on a couple of items. You had your two presentations where NGOs and department heads came in, and you all gave me good direction. I know Mr. Bellows wasn't a part of that, but there were a couple of items. I'm not sure I can get through it in 8 minutes. So I would suggest maybe we recess till 7 o'clock, come back for the school board budget adoption, and then I can run through that budget as quickly as possible. I know Craig would like me to be very quick with that.
I think you can do it in 8 minutes.
You think so? I can try if you want.
No, we'll wait.
Okay.
We wouldn't do that to you.
All right.
Okay.
Well, we'll recess until 7 p.m. All right. And then at a particular time when we come back, Mr. Gill can go through the rest of the capital improvement after we talked about the school budget. All right. Okay.
creek down there.
At this particular time, because I think we all here are aware of what happened to the superintendent, Mr. Dan Russell, I'm going to ask Reverend Smith if he will lead us in prayer. Okay. Stand.
Heavenly Father, we come to you tonight, and Lord, our friend Dan needs you right now. You are the great physician, Lord, and I pray that you look over Dan. I pray that you be with his family. I pray that you be with the school board, and Lord, I pray that you be with all the leaders, especially Jessica right now. Lord, your will be done, but if it is your will, please restore Dan and put him back in front of us and let him continue to lead our school division. In your mighty name I pray, amen.
Amen.
And go with the school board, Lord, and guide and lead them to make the right decisions. Amen.
Amen.
All righty. Mr. Gill?
Mr. Chairman, the Board of Supervisors held their required public hearing of the proposed FY23 public schools budget at your March 31st meeting. That advertised budget is on the screen. This is the budget that was adopted by the school board at their March 7th, 2022 meeting, and it did include a 10% raise for all of the school's full-time employees based on prior discussions that both boards had during their joint work sessions. At that March 31st meeting, the Board of Supervisors supported an alternate version, which was at a 6.57% raise, which would get the schools to their target starting salary of $45,000. So I had the proposed budget up on the screen. This is the alternate proposed, and you all need to take action on it tonight. And also, when you adopt the budget, I would ask you to include in your motion how you want to appropriate it. You know, the Code of Virginia will allow you to appropriate it by lump sum, which you have done for the past several years, or by category. So that's up to you as well. So the version, I call it the 6.57 version that the board supported at last month's meeting, has a total expenditure of $19,252,261. That is an increase over the FY22 of over $2 million, but the vast majority of that is in state and federal funding. The local increase with this 6.57 version is $231,558 over the adopted FY22 budget.
Okay. So what you're presenting here for this school budget is including the 6.75. That's not 10%, but 6.7. Okay.
Yeah, what you see on the screen right now is the 6.57 version.
Okay, all right. So I'll move that we adopt this budget. You've heard the motion. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
All opposed?
Adopted and appropriated lump sum.
And appropriated lump sum. I'll add that to my motion, appropriate lump sum. Okay, all in favor of the
Aye.
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 All right, that's a unanimous vote. Okay, good, all right.
As Dan would say if he were here, we appreciate everything you gave us. Thank you very much.
You're welcome, thanks. And thank you for the good working relationship that we have developed.
And we will
hope-
continue.
All right, good, all right.
All right, Mr. Chairman, in continuation of your 5 o'clock budget work session, I need a couple of items addressed on the overall county budget before I can put the ad in the paper next week for your public hearing at your April 28th meeting. So having said that, I will go to the FY23 budget and seeing what you just approved with the schools. This is the 6.57 version of the overall county budget, which has a matching 6.57% raise for all county employees. That is included in these figures. This is the synopsis page. You can see at the end of the year, next year, your fund balance is still above $6 million, which has been the target figure that our treasurer has said would keep us from needing a revenue anticipation note to to help with cash flow until tax collections start in November. So at this level, we would not need a revenue anticipation note, and you would be decreasing the fund balance by a little over $1 million. But as you heard your accountants say in January, where you're at right now with $7,360,000 is pretty healthy. Having said that, for Mr. Bellows' benefit, in my estimates for revenue for FY23, I relied heavily on actuals from FY21. So unless there are any specific questions with the revenue side, I'll just bypass that.
What was the major increases you saw for, can you just synopsis the major increase categories that you saw?
Well, the increases will be in, there's some increase in real estate taxes, but it's not from an increase in the tax rate. It's from improvements that have been picked up on through the Commissioner of Revenue's office. There will be increases in personal property taxes. Again, not due to an increase in tax rates, because the budget has been built on the existing 2021 tax rates. You all voted earlier to advertise existing tax rates for calendar year 2022. But there will be an increase in personal property tax revenue because the value of the vehicles being assessed has increased so much. So that's the major line items. Sales and use tax is up. We are generating money from a cigarette tax now, and I think that projection is good. We are generating money from a 2% lodging tax for the short-term rentals. So that's where the majority of the increases come from, in addition to the increased revenue from the state and Fed. And you can see the totals here, how they shape up.
Thank you.
General government, really no changes until you get to real estate assessor. I have budgeted $235,000 for a general reassessment in calendar year 2023. Calendar year 2023 will be using comps from calendar year 2022. And according to the realtors that I talked to, you know, the peak is going to happen at some point in time this year. So I think doing the general reassessment in 2023 would enable the county to generate more revenue based on higher values of property without affecting the tax rate. So the majority of the increase under general government will be for that $235,000 general reassessment. The rest of it, the majority of it is in the 6.57% raises.
So we want to make sure we use a better firm this time.
Well, we got to go to bid, and we had 3 firms respond the last time we did this in 2018. One of those firms no longer exists. I'm only aware of 2. One is who we had last time, and so I don't know how many responses we would get. So I don't have any other questions under general government.
Because would that figure include the cost that would be for the panel that would have to be put in place to hear appeals?
No, because the Board of Equalization would not be in place until FY24. Okay. So that I did not include anything in there in FY23 for that. Courts, again, nothing here other than the increase in salaries. Public safety, there are some increases here. You all had approved 2 additional dispatcher positions in January, also 2 more starting in July because of the state mandate to have 2 dispatchers on duty 24 hours a day based on the telecommunications CPR that is required by code now. So
the state's going to pay that bill, right? They mandated it, right?
Not to my knowledge. So that's those 2 new positions there. Help contribute to the increase under public safety. I do want to bring up right here the volunteer fire departments at one of our work sessions. Matt Smith texted me and said that the volunteer fire departments had asked him at the last minute for a 5% increase. That didn't make it into the initial version that we have here. They have not gotten an increase the last 2 years. You all gave them some CARES money in 2020 due to the fact that they could not hold the fundraisers that they normally
I thought this
hold.
board voted a few years ago to just give them a COLA every year.
Well, it was 1.5%, but we got away from that. And so what they've asked for is 5%. And I can make this a wash, actually, because the short-term interest for the revenue anticipation note is still in here. So if I take that out, that will more than cover a 5% increase for the volunteer fire department. So that's one of the things I'd like for you all to give me direction on. Is that something that you all would like to do?
Yes.
Yes,
Yeah, absolutely.
yes.
Okay.
All right, so, yeah.
Right here in bold, you'll see contribution to med flight.
It's important to note that the volunteer firemen are worth their weight in gold.
I ditto. Absolutely. I'm a lifetime member of the Upper Lancaster Fire Department myself, so I ditto. Contribution to MedFlight, they ask for money every year. It had been $200. This year, they went up to $700. Previous boards have not funded this. So I'm asking you, is this something that you want to fund or not?
I'm still a no.
They're the ones that go down to the hospital and fly people out, right?
They do, but there's
At
also.
$25,000 a person.
Exactly.
So why are we, yeah, I mean, is 25,000 a person not enough to fund their?
Apparently not.
All right.
I'm
Leave it
done.
as it is. Leave it as
Zero.
passed.
To
Zero.
not fund that?
Not fun.
Unless I need it tonight, then it might change, but as of right now, no.
Weather's too bad, we can't get Mr. Smith.
All right, we got
I'm
a
gonna jump on
consensus
that
on
big
that.
drone.
We got a consensus on that, yeah.
I don't think it's anything else in public safety that I need your
Something
direction
like that,
on.
yeah, it's expensive.
Yes, I think that's it. Okay. I don't think it's anything in public works.
Of course, it's like $250,000 an hour or something to fly one of those things.
that I need. Health and welfare, you all gave me direction during the presentations on most of these, and the direction was to fund all of them. One of them that you did not give me direction on was Legal Aid Works. You heard a presentation from Ann Klockner about that organization providing legal services, civil legal services for folks in the county who cannot afford it on their own. They've made this request for several years at $5,600, and prior boards, the most recent prior boards, have not funded this for the last 4 years. Prior to that, the board did fund it. So I'm asking for direction from you on how you want to proceed with that.
They usually have good contributions, though, from what I can understand. So,
What is your recommendation?
Now, see, you always ask me for a recommendation on this, but this is one where, you know, the board may have a certain feeling on this. All I can say is,
I don't have any feeling on it.
for the last 4 years, the Board of Supervisors has not funded this. Prior to that, they did.
and the reason we did not fund it because we said the contributions they've been getting has been sufficient enough to keep them going without us providing funds for them.
I don't think we need to expand government.
I agree.
Okay.
So,
I'm okay with it.
Consensus
Okay.
of,
Is that-
Consensus.
Is that your recommendation?
all right, we got a
It is now.
consensus. Yeah.
I don't think it's anything else there. Education, this is non-public education, this is RCC. You really don't have much of a choice here. We usually have a representative from RCC who makes a presentation, but for whatever reason, we did not this year. Recreation and culture, I don't believe it's anything else here that I need direction on that you haven't already given me. Community development, I don't believe there is as well.
Don, while you're searching, are electronic cigarettes taxed the same as regular cigarettes?
I don't think so, but I don't know. But that's a,
Well, I mean,
I don't know if they've caught the law with that or not. They were working on it, but I don't know if they ever have gotten there or not.
I
They
don't
may
know the
have by
answer.
now, but I'm not sure.
Yeah, I don't know the answer to that. That's a good question.
Crystal,
weren't
can you Google
originally.
that, please?
The schools numbers. We'll talk later. That's, they're in there at the 6.57. I will go in and adjust the capital improvement numbers based on your actions tonight, taking out that 20,000 for one, adding the 500,000 for public access. And debt service, as I said, I had included 33,000 for interest and fees associated with a RAN, a revenue anticipation note, but as long as their fund balance stays above that 6 million number, we won't need that. So I think that's it. I've got the direction I need now. What I will do is correct those numbers, advertise this next Thursday in the Rappahannock Record. You'll hold your public hearing at your April 28th meeting. By code, you have to wait at least 7 days before adoption. You all have decided to adopt at your regular May meeting to cut down on the number of additional meetings. So I think I've got the direction I need on the budget.
Okay, gentlemen, I'd like to say, I like the way we handled the budget process this year. I think we discussed it the way we should have, and we moved through it in a timely manner.
I have nothing to compare it to, so I guess that's good.
I like that we've set a time schedule in January and we stick to it now, that instead of like having it just drag out for a while.
Right.
When you have accountability, you get things done.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. Okay.
All right. So unless there's anything else, when you adjourn to April 28th.
Okay.
Or recess.
Was it something